Hey girl, are you into concept albums? Have you ever heard of Ethel Cain? Have you ever heard about the album Preacher's Daughter? Are you into cannibalism? If any of those things are true, I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to be talking about Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain. So, who is Ethel Cain, I hear you asking? Well, her real name is Hayden. She goes by the stage name Ethel Cain. She developed an early interest in music at the age of 8 where she learned piano, and she was influenced by the Christian music that surrounded her. After leaving her church at 16 and her religious family home at 18, she began to write music under various monikers, going by Atlas in 2017 where she released her first EP called Colossus, and then going by White Silas from 2018 to 2019 where she released 4 more EPs, before launching her current and hopefully main project Ethel Cain, which now stands at 2.9 to almost 3 million monthly viewers on Spotify. Her debut album, Preacher's Daughter, released in May 12th of 2022, and it garnered cult fame, pulling her out of obscurity. It had a rich alt-rock sound, intricately woven with themes of religion, trauma, and the aesthetics of the Americana and Southern Gothic, giving it a full-length horror film in only 13 tracks. While listening, it's important to remember that this album narrates the story of Ethel Cain, not Hayden. She explains that Ethel was a fictional character, a ghost that possessed her in 2018, and Hayden was simply showing us the world that Ethel exists in. She further explained that you can only run from so much where you come from. Ethel was her scapegoat. She kept running and ended up chained in the attic. Adding on to that, if she was the good ending, Ethel was the bad one. While Preacher's Daughter is fictional, it feels so real. It's bold themes of familial trauma and abuse. Layering the narrative of a life of a traumatized girl is accompanied perfectly with striking visuals of churches and cabins from the Midwest and the South captured on film. The album culminating in the cannibalism of Ethel Cain. Welcome to our wall, or in this case, our little family tree. For our little fan cast, let me explain all our characters. We have Miss Ethel Cain right in the middle. She's played by Sarah Hagen. We have the preacher, or Joseph Cain, played by John Malkovich. Miss Vera Cain over here, played by Karen Grassel. You can't really see her face. Miss Susan Sarandon, playing Ethel's grandmother, who's also named Ethel. We have Cal Robertson playing Willoughby Tucker, Isaac Powell as Logan, and Jacob Pitts as Isaiah. Now that we've been properly introduced to our cast, we can get on with the actual story of the album. So, the first track is called Family Tree Intro, where we're introduced to our main character, Miss Ethel Lenora Cain, and her parents, Joseph and Vera Cain, where they live in a small town called Shady Grove. The story is set in 1991, where the track introduces the themes of Christianity and intergenerational familial trauma through the voice of Ethel's father, who's the preacher. The lyrics convey her struggle with her family's legacy, emphasizing the inexplicability of her familial roots and the pain tied in her bloodline. There are lyrics like, "Jesus can always reject his father, but he cannot escape his mother's blood," which highlight her sense of entrapment within her family's history. The imagery of swinging from a family tree evokes a haunting connection between the trauma that permeates through the song. The ethereal quality of her voice echoes as if she's in a seemingly empty church, again reinforcing the themes of Christianity and her familial bonds inherited by the pain that will unfold throughout the story, ultimately leading to her kidnapping and her murder. In the song American Teenager, we're introduced more to Shady Grove in detail as we see more of Ethel's life since her father has passed away. The album takes place in 1991, where we learn that Ethel is 20, and through supplemental material we learn that her father had died 10 years ago. So he's dead. In the song itself, she expresses more of her frustrations with the unrealistic expectations of teenagers in her small Alabama town. As she is the preacher's daughter, she grapples with the pressure to embody the idealized image of youth, which makes her feel increasingly out of place. The song opens up with her struggles of faith, highlighting her loneliness even in the presence of God, saying, "Jesus, if you're there, why do I feel so alone in this room with you?" Her disillusion is more palpable as she navigates the contrast between the glamorized high school experiences, like football games, and the somber reality of life, marked by her loss and fading faith. She tends to turn to alcohol as a coping mechanism as she confronts the emptiness of her circumstances and her inability to achieve the dreams that society holds out for her, setting the stage for a deeper emotional journey throughout the album. It's also at this time where there's a little article written in a school newspaper and Ethel is featured in it. We have a little Polaroid of her with her truck saying, "Senior Ethel Cain getting ready to leave for work in the parking lot after school." In the next song, House in Nebraska, Ethel recalls on her lost love, Willoughby. She speaks about the time that they had alone in their empty house in Nebraska and reveals the extent to which their breakup had hurt her. She described that they had met each other in school and had known each other through church, and that after they broke up, he had moved away. She didn't know whether he was still dead or alive. She claims that she had lost him in the night of the Shady Grove tornado in 1990, saying that she had left him curled between the couch and the coffee table when it all got too loud. In the song itself, she reflects on her past relationship, evoking a deep sense of nostalgia and yearning. She reminisces on the good times that they had shared and the dreams of escaping back to their abandoned house, far from their hometown of Shady Grove. The song captures her bittersweet longing as she acknowledges her role in his absence. She says, "And it hurts to miss you, and it's worse to know that I'm the reason you won't come home." This recognition amplifies her loneliness as she grasps the painful reality of their separation while holding on to the idea of their imagined home. Ultimately, Ethel is left to confront the isolation that her dream will never be realized. Western Nights explores Ethel's next boyfriend after Willoughby. His name is Logan Harvey Phelps. Now, a little bit about Logan. He's a bit of a criminal. Due to the poverty in Shady Grove, he's resorted to a life of crime as a way to support himself and Ethel. She ruminates on the difficult nature of their love as his crimes begin to escalate, and she sees herself being drawn to a life of crime alongside him. As charming as he is, he's still an outlaw involved in bank robberies. His violent tendencies complicate her feelings for him. The line, "I watched him show his love through shades of black and blue," underscores the abuse that's present in their relationship, reflecting on her conflicting emotions as she clings to him for a sense of escape from her own life, even if you lose what's left of your mind. The willingness to ignore his volatility highlights her desperation for freedom from her own life and her family legacy as she searches for love, even if it's in its most harmful form. The song marks a shift from her past fantasies with her ex-lovers to stark reality filled with both passion and peril. We see in the next song, Family Tree, that Logan has escalated from breaking into ATMs to full-on robbing banks. We find out that he is now dead as he's been killed by the police in a shootout. So he's now dead. He was shot and killed by a police officer while stealing money from the First National Bank of Montgomery, Alabama. Scared, Ethel is now on the run. While she's on the run, she thinks about how someone so violent, such as Logan, had loved her so imperfectly, and how it reminded her of her own family. She severs the ties from her hometown, marking a pivotal moment of escape. She reflects on her past, saying, "These crosses all over my body remind me of who I used to be," indicating a struggle with her identity and the weight of her history. The metaphor of a noose in the album's intro is found again as she decides to take the noose off, wrap it tightly around my hand, reclaiming control over her own life. She grapples with the disconnect between herself and her relationship with Logan as she seeks redemption and cleansing from the past sins, saying, "So take me down to the river and bathe me clean." The track perfectly captures her chaotic emotion state as she navigates the consequences of her own choices and her desire for a fresh start. After the events of the previous song, Ethel finally reveals to her listeners the family secrets that she's been struggling with in her current life. Her father, Joseph Cain, had been abusing her from the age of 9, and he continued until her death. As she goes on the run, she struggles with reconciling with these emotions of her loving father with the memories of a man who had assaulted her. In hard times, she confronts these complex emotions. The line, "I was too young to notice that some type of love could be bad," encapsulates her struggle with the guilt and shame that surrounded her traumatic experiences. Even though her father was a respected preacher, the harm that he inflicted still lingered in her mind, complicating her feelings about the relationship. The song is underscored by gospel hums, which adds to the emotional depth that provide a poignant sense of closure to the album's first act. Ethel reflects on the loss of her childhood, revealing that she was 9 going on 18, maturing far too quickly, as she leaves listeners with a powerful sense of her ongoing journey. So in Act 2, we're introduced to Isaiah throughout the first song, Thoroughfare. Ethel meets him while she's on the run. Now, Isaiah has blonde hair and blue eyes. He's about 6'2" and utterly irresistible to Ethel. He tells her that, like her, he's from a small town, from Florida rather than Alabama, but that he's traveling west to California, and he offers for her to ride with him. Like Ethel, Isaiah's father had passed away, and his memory plays a large part in his life. Most noticeably, that he wishes to be in a relationship with someone who loves him just as much as his mother loved his father. Ethel accepts the offer for a ride, despite her cynical opinion for finding love out west. However, as the two of them travel across the country together, they begin to recognize their mutual attraction for each other, and upon reaching the coast had begun their relationship. They meet on a deserted Texas road as she climbs into his pickup truck. She embraces the chance to escape her troubled past past and embark on this journey to California. She captures the comfort that she finds in this budding relationship with the line, "'Cause in your pickup truck with all your dumb luck is the only place I'd ever want to be." The song features a lonesome harmonica, which sets a reflective tone on Ethel as she walks alongside the empty road. Their shared experiences in motels along the way, creating a sense of intimacy, a pivotal moment in their connection. It's after this that we find a missing poster of Ethel Cain, shown here, where it says, "Ethel Cain was last seen Saturday, January 13th at 3:15 a.m. being forced into a black short bed pickup truck in Old Winn-Dixie parking lot in the Abrams Street of Arlington, Texas. A witness said to have been a white man kidnapping her." Here's the missing poster. Now, the poster describes something a little bit more different than how she describes her own relationship with Isaiah. The poster is saying that she was forced into the pickup truck, while she seems to have been willingly ready to embark on this journey. And I think that kind of explains more of their own relationship. She saw it to be much more loving than it actually was, possibly influenced by her own relationships with people like Logan or her father. The next song, Gibson Girl, continues with their story. Ethel's relationship with Isaiah began to turn abusive. As the two of them fell into addiction, Isaiah had coerced Ethel into prostitution in order to feed their habits. Her sense of self had begun to dissolve. Now there was another supplemental piece here, a little newspaper clipping that said "Preacher's Daughter Gone Wild," which I didn't print out for obvious reasons, but I will include an image of it here. In Gibson Girl, what had begun as escape quickly turned into exploitation, as Isaiah had pimped her out in the back of strip clubs and regularly fed her drugs. The abusive dynamic led Ethel to lose her grip on reality, as the song's slow, hazy chorus reflected her feelings of disorientation and helplessness. Isaiah's manipulation is starkly shown in the line, "And if it feels good, then it can't be bad," as he gaslights her into believing that the exploitation is a choice, twisting her sense of rebellion into complicity. The euphoric cries at the end of Thoroughfare give way to the bleakness of Gibson Girl, where the rising intensity of the music parallels her betrayal of the past beliefs that she once had and the depth of her suffering. This track marking a crucial turning point, as Ethel's initial rush of freedom became overshadowed by her darkness of the circumstances, setting the stage for the final challenges to come. Now, in the next track, Ptolemaea, she's hallucinating on drugs, where she realizes that Isaiah is at last revealing his true nature to her, and that he's a severely disturbed person, affected with religious paranoia, worsened due to the drug abuse. He commits acts of violence on her, and in the aftermath, under the influence of drugs, has fed on her. She hallucinates the words that he says, either coming from a demon appearing as Isaiah, or as Isaiah being the sheep of death himself. The song was named after one of the 4 concentric rings of the 9th circle of hell, depicted in Dante's Inferno. She gives us this cute little visual. The circle was dedicated to those who betray their guests, which immediately struck a chord with Hayden. As she said, "When someone invites you in, brings you into their life just to hurt you. I was scared of the demo when I listened to it the next day." We're also gifted with these 2 visuals, one being of Dante and then one being of Red Riding Hood. In Ptolemaea, Ethel descends into a harrowing realm influenced by the drugs provided by Isaiah. She grapples with these feelings not only from him but from her own family and bloodline. A key line being, "You love blood so much, but not like I do," highlights the stark contrast between Ethel's desire for purity through Christ's blood and Isaiah's thrill of violence. This dichotomy culminates in her brutal murder and cannibalization. As her reality becomes increasingly warped through hallucinations, the song reaches a chilling climax of her screaming with desperate cries for Isaiah to stop, emphasizing her vulnerability and her horror. So Ethel has now died. The atmosphere further darkens with the introduction of a demonic voice, as Ethel feels haunted by her own betrayal. Isaiah's transformation into a monstrous figure represents her ultimate fear, leading her to a tragic end. In her final moments, her screams underscore the severity of her situation as she's encapsulating the entire album's descent into darkness. The next 2 tracks, August Underground and Televangelism, are both instrumental tracks. In the first one, August Underground, Isaiah takes Ethel to an abandoned house in Northern California, much like the one in Nebraska that she shared with Willoughby, where he continues to kill her and dismember her body. Her slow and painful demise is captured by haunting, distorted sounds. The absence of lyrics symbolize her muteness from the world, as she succumbs to Isaiah's violent faith. This track poignantly marks Ethel's death, as it emphasizes the horror of her situation without a need for words, stretching out her suffering and signifying her irrevocable end to life. Isaiah leaves a note for his mother. It reads, "Dear Mama, I'm sorry for what I did to her, but I did it all for you. I love you, Mama. Your son, Isaiah." In the second instrumental track, Televangelism, Ethel's soul ascends from her body into the afterlife. It offers a stark contrast from August Underground, as it features gentle piano and ambient sounds, evoking tranquility and peace. The serene soundscape symbolizes Ethel's ascension into the afterlife, providing a sense of closure for her tumultuous journey. In this moment, her lightweight soul transcends her troubled existence, creating an atmosphere of nirvana that contrasts sharply with the track before it. In the second-to-last song, Sun-Bleached Flies, Ethel makes peace with her death, remembering the Sundays she spent at church with her family and her community. She recalls the final moments of her death and her thoughts of how she might be saved before Isaiah eventually murders her. She finds herself in a state of reflection, contemplating her life and her enduring love for Willoughby. As she navigates this otherworldly space, her voice carries a blend of emotions, expressing for both the longing of innocence from her childhood and the pain of her traumatic experiences. A line that captures her complex feelings is, "God loves you, but not enough to save you. So baby girl, good luck taking care of yourself." This sentiment encapsulates the paradox of her life, the betrayal that permeated from her past relationships, including her connection with Jesus. Ethel seeks solace and comfort in her church and religion, yet she feels ultimately abandoned by them in their time of need. As she reflects on her past, she yearns for a simple, peaceful life, like the one that she had had with Willoughby, and their dream of a house in Nebraska. The imagery of a rotting corpse serves as a haunting reminder of the damage that she had done to her life, culminating in a bittersweet longing for the life that she had lost and the choices that had led her to this point. The concluding track, Strangers, serves as an epilogue. Before finally ascending to heaven and leaving Earth behind, Ethel looks back at the house in California, where she watches Isaiah, who's now fully descended into madness, as he cannibalizes her corpse, which he now keeps in a basement freezer. Her soul then visits her mother one last time before departing to heaven. The song is a haunting farewell from Ethel to Isaiah as she watches upon the horrors that he inflicts upon her. In vivid imagery, she refers to herself as a freezer bride, emphasizing the grim fate of her murder. The line, "You devour me like a smoked bovine hide," juxtaposes the dark humor and the gravity of her death, illustrating her struggle to find toughness in her vulnerability. Throughout the song, Ethel reflects on her life and her relationships, with deep-seated questions of self-worth, like, "I tried to be good, am I no good?" Her yearning for validation reveals her lifelong attempts to please the men of her life, even as she grappled with the feelings of unworthiness. The repeated refrain captures her inner turmoil, showing that even in her death, she's tethered to their wills. Ethel's anger once again resurfaces as she confronts the desecration of her body, suggesting her presence haunts Isaiah, asking, "If I'm turning in your stomach, am I making you feel sick?" The clever play on the phrase, "turning in your grave," highlighting her inability to escape her trauma, as her legacy continues to impact others. The song culminates in a heartfelt message to her mother, expressing her love and longing for a reunion. She says, "Don't worry about me and these green eyes. Just know that I love you, I do, and I'll see you when you get here." This final sentiment shows that Ethel still endures to find a connection with her family, offering a sense of dark hope amongst her tragic story. Now, while the story of Preacher's Daughter is complete, it is not the end of the Ethel Cain cinematic universe, as Hayden has planned a trilogy for the 3 generations of the family. The story centers around the 3 generations of women, starting with the youngest and ending with the oldest. It's basically a classic American tale, according to her. The common theme that she likes to write about is intergenerational trauma, things passed down and how they can affect us. It's about a lineage of women and how their lives interconnect, each album focusing on a different woman. She is now beginning to release the story of Ethel Cain, finally going to be released on January 8th, calling it bittersweet and melodramatic. So that's really all I have to say about Preacher's Daughter. Let me know what you thought about this style of video. I know it's something different than what I usually do, but I really enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You're welcome to follow my socials to keep up to date with new videos and anything else going on in my life. Let me know if you have ideas for any other videos you want me to make. That's pretty much all I have to say. Have a good day. Bye!